those that don't know, I'm retired actually. I'm supposed to be fishing now, but they keep dragging me into things. I was dragged all the way back from a trip in the UK fishing, going around the world fishing, by Australian government. And I have to keep saying no to people. Sorry, I'm not working on fishing. And they just don't take any notice of me because they want to hear about leaks and things like that. Right, I'm going to tell you something about a few leaks that we've had experience with, and what the best way to deal with finding leaks is, from my experience, how to manage massive distribution systems. This is a leak I found, I uncovered. You've a job to see that I've uncovered it, but this was about 3 foot below ground in coral. It was running for 42 years, exactly. I know exactly, because this was in Guadalcanal, where the Americans went in, when they had the first major battles with the Japanese, and they moved them out, and they laid water distribution pipes, exactly 42 years ago. The joint on this, the rubber, was 1/3 out of the socket, and it was impressed on the side. It had been like that since the day it was put in. I did work it out once. I think 7 litres a second, a big leak, 7 litres a second, very high pressure. I think it works out at 9 billion litres in that 42 years that it was running. 9 billion, can you imagine? 9 billion litres, it's a lot of water. And the fact is, nobody knew. It didn't come up on the surface. There was another one only a mile away from this, 31 litres a second. Biggest leak I've ever found in my life. And again, it didn't come up to the surface. So not all large leaks do come up to the surface. Ken went over the ALR system, the issues related to actually becoming aware. And it is true, the vast majority of large leaks show up. And small leaks will run and run and run and leak as much as any large leak because it takes so much time to find them. People don't believe that these small leaks don't wash away underground infrastructure, under the roads, etc. So over the years I've collected a few photos where underneath the road has been washed away, and suddenly it won't take what's happening there. It won't take the strength. It just collapses. This one I really like, because there's a British man in Poland here. Now, what you've got to watch is his shoes. Because while calamity is going on all around him, and everybody's rushing to help out, he never budges. He holds his bag and just watches what's going on. We'll go a few steps before this, because there's a series of photos. But now, you see, there's a woman in the car trying to get out. He's really helping her a lot. Everybody else is rushing to there. No, he's still there. Oh dear. I always say, really, she's wondering where she's going to tell her husband she parked the car. I find that really funny, watching him just like that. Do you want to see it again? Let's just have a look again. Here he is, look, watching the world. This is a typical Englishman. Bye-bye car. Okay, I shouldn't. I'm an Englishman as well, originally. Okay. Right, why bother doing district meters? I hear, everywhere I go, and I try and persuade a local government, a council, a water company, or wherever, to think about district meters. These are the arguments I get back. It's too difficult. It won't work here. It's too expensive. I retire in 2 years, so I don't really want to get into it. It's a lot of work. There's other ways of finding leaks. Well, that's true, there are. We've managed without them for years, but without the knowledge of what's actually happening underground. They've managed in ignorance. It creates dead ends, and that's quite true. It does often create dead ends if you're introducing district metering, but that's up to you, the skill of the designer for district meter areas, to minimise. And this is another argument, people. It reduces the trunk main flow. Now, if they're saying that, that means they don't really understand how to do district metering correctly, because you should always leave your trunk mains out of your district meter areas. The trunk mains are designed to deliver water from A to B, from one side of a network to the other. You leave them out of district meter areas. I did actually leave, I used to work with David here, 1983, something like that, a long time ago. And I got seconded by government to work overseas to help them with that. I visited back every year, and to my distress, my team had been designing thousands of district meter areas. They'd suddenly done this other city of Blackburn, and they'd included all the trunk mains in the district meter areas. And when a drought came along, they had to disconnect all the district meter areas, because simple bad design. Right, the reason you want to do district metering is to get night flows. You need to know that minimum night flow. Unless you segment an area, to be able to get that, to be able to measure that minimum night flow for a particular area, you're not in control. You don't know what's happening fully. And sometimes when you think the minimum night flow, when everybody's gone to bed, as I think Ken said earlier, that it's a good indication of how much leakage there is. This is sometimes what you find. You expect it to be low. It's not always low. This was at sort of 80% level of total flow going through. Nobody knew. This area had particularly been set up, I think, for about 30 years, running like this. Nobody knew. Unless you actually start doing nighttime flow work, and nighttime flow work generally means to be able to monitor a water main that's feeding a larger area, totally. And that generally means you can't do it in supply zones or reservoir zones because you have more than one feed into those areas. So you have to look at how you can separate them. And a DMA is part of that network. How can you separate it off so you can put a meter at one point measuring all the water going into that area? This would, for that area, if you close two valves there, or that would for all that area if you open two valves here. Where do you start with this? Well, it's difficult when you look at a massive network, but my experience is you start from the outside, working in towards a city or a town area, because it's quite easy to identify the water mains that run up to natural borders like rivers, lakes, railways. They've already got dead ends, so you're not creating any more there. Find the water main that goes to that particular area, and that's a naturally formed area. You're not creating any extra dead ends. You can find the biggest main that's feeding into that. Sometimes you have to put a bigger main in just to reinforce it, to set it up. But I would say a district meter area shouldn't have more than, say, 2 or 3 extra valves closed. 5 you can live with perhaps, but not many more than that, because every time you create a boundary, you're creating something that's likely to be opened by someone by mistake. Or you're creating perhaps a discoloured water problem for anybody who lives right at the side of that, because dirt might build up behind the closed valve. So you should only ever really do a closed valve at least 5 metres away from any service part that's coming off the main. So it has time to build up and you can flush it out before customers get a problem. So I've tried to show, this is a drawing that's been used all over the world, but it's good to show how easily you can separate networks. I used to have technicians and engineers when I worked with David, used to queue up every morning with 5 or 6 more district meter area plans for me to have a look at, because we were in full swing of doing district meter areas covering for what used to be about 7 million people. So it was the way we found you can be 100% certain of knowing how much water is going in a certain area. So if you've got a meter in one particular spot that can measure low flow as well as high flow, you can put a data logger on it, and it will give you all the data every time you analysing it, either for the whole area or part of it. Because this is the other wonderful thing you can do. You can step test that area in the middle of the night when everybody's asleep. You predetermine what valves you can close during the night to shut that area down in a sequence back towards the meter. You've got a data logger on the meter, so it's got a time frame that it's recording against, and every time you close a valve and you're closing one of those smaller areas off, it registers what flow difference there is. And if you shut a leak off in that area, there's a big drop in the flow. You know for 100% certain you've either shut a leak off or you've shut off what is a connection to another area that you didn't know, that there might be a main underground there that you didn't know anything about, but it's connected to another area. And that's quite easy to find every time you do a step. It's so simple. Not many people do step testing because they want to find other ways to find leaks generally. For instance, using a correlator, and I think Ken might talk about correlators later. But with a correlator, I've done tests. Running a correlator over a whole distribution area where people don't know what the nighttime flows are. And the problem is they don't find half the leaks because they don't have the knowledge that between 2 certain valves there's definitely a leak. If you take them back over an area that they've already correlated and they've found nothing, strangely enough, and you say there's definitely a leak between those 2 valves in that shut-off area, they will find it with the correlator because they've got the confidence. So step testing gives you the confidence for definitely knowing where to go to find leaks. Also, that night flow, you obviously only go into areas that's got a high night flow to find the leaks. That's where all your leaks will be. Oh. And this is where it shows up on the data logger. Every time you close a valve, you've got a record of the time that you close the valve. You can check there on the data logger reading, and you can see what flow drop there is to know where the biggest flow drop is exactly where there's a leak. I have found only 1 or 2 problems after doing probably thousands of district meter areas. This was one of them. This was a step valve that we were using to separate part of the area off. And you can see there's a hole through it. So although we thought we were closing it to separate an area, we weren't closing it at all. There was water, a lot of water can force through that small hole there. So you can actually hear that when it's forcing through. So it's another technique we ask inspectors to do once they start doing step tests. Every time they close a valve, they nearly get it closed, and then they listen on it and they hear the water forcing through, and then they shut it down totally, and that sound should stop. If it doesn't, you've got a problem like this, or you've got another main that's bypassing your valve. You're getting lots of practical experience this afternoon. And this is what happens over a period of time. This was a town of about 30,000 people. I think that went in, they were running out of water. They hadn't had district meter areas in. We put temporary ones in. And you can see all the leaks that we found there over a relatively short period of time, 3 months, and got the night flow down from 190 litres a second down to, what's that, about 40. The reason this one's interesting, because they were in a drought area. They were thinking about moving these people out because they were running out of water, a bit like Cape Town is, wondering what to do about it. So they sent us in, we found these leaks, and then it rained at this point. And then they weren't bothered. The authority wasn't bothered, it was cheap water, so we stopped doing any work there. I went back 12 months later exactly to see what the flow had gone back up to. You know where it had gone back up to? Exactly where it was when we started, just below 190. Exactly. So what this tells you is a pressure regime on this network, then the age of the network you're not altering. You're not altering the structures, you're not replacing anything. It will always go back to the same leakage level if you stop doing detection work on it, if you stop looking for leaks, unless you alter the pressure. If you alter the pressure, then things will totally alter. Okay, and once you've got, I was talking about modelling this morning, once you've got large meters on the mains, you've separated areas off, you know what the flows are, you can start doing leakage modelling for that whole part of that network. As the pressure varies, the minimum night flow will vary and the background leakage will vary. But you can actually model all this out and know how much water is actually going for actual use and how much is not, what the rest of it is. So district metering is a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. How can you separate off all the areas into different segments? And a common question I often get asked is, how big should they be, these district meter areas? We used to do them at about 2,000 properties, or try and do something like that. And then some not so wise people in the UK came out and said, no, the economic number should be 5,000. And so we started changing to 5,000. But then we stopped finding as many leaks. In the smaller ones of 2,000, we could find a lot more leaks. What my advice to you all is, totally ignore whether it's 500 or 5,000, it doesn't matter. What's the easiest spot to put a meter on where you don't have to close extra valves in the system? If it's 5,000, if it's 10,000, I'm not that bothered. If it's 500, I'm okay with it. It's the quickest and easiest way and least upset to the network. And anybody doing this work, all your people will talk to you and your companies about what the right sizing should be. There's nothing more important than the layout of the network to tell you how to do that. Okay, so in summary, ask yourself, do you know how much water is going to each part of your system accurately? Do you know what the nighttime flow is as well as the daytime flow? Do you know it before, during and after you've done investigations looking for leaks? It's a complete waste of time going in to find 500 leaks in this area unless you can measure the results. And the results are, what was the nighttime before? What's the nighttime flow after? If you're not measuring, you have no idea. And often, when you do a repair, you increase the pressure in the water main, as you were told this morning, and it'll create another leak somewhere else. You need to know that you're not doing that. You need to know that maybe it's good to move the pressure down slightly as well after you've found leaks. But wherever, you need to be able to monitor what value have you added to that system. How much water are you saving? I used to find actually, I'm quite surprised that although you know the total volume of water you've saved from every leak, when you put the pressure back on it, you lose about a third of that benefit that you've gained. Do you know where to send repair teams, where they're going to make the biggest impact of greater savings? Unless you have district meters, you won't get that. And the biggest question I generally put to people is, are you in control? Do you know what's happening everywhere? When you get an emergency, what are you going to use to find what the problem is? You can't be half in control. You either are in control or you're not. So it's like being half pregnant. You can't be half pregnant, half expecting a baby. You either are or you're not. And on distribution management, and I have been doing it all these years, believe me, this is the best way to be in control, to get the best response for the customers and the people you're serving, to get the right information and to take speedy action to do something about it. I can't emphasize that enough. And Mr. Ford's back. For all those people who don't think they can set district meter areas up, they need to listen again. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're probably right. Okay, I'll leave it at that.